All right, everybody, not just VSC crew, everybody who watches the Extraordinary Podcast, welcome back for another week. I am about to pull up an extraordinary blog post that I wrote yesterday. I was on a roll yesterday. These are blog posts that have not even been released yet. They're going to get released today with this video, I reckon. But I wrote two absolute crackers of a blog post yesterday. One of them was about the difference between an AMRAP and a 4-time workout, how they work, why you should scale them, and all that cool stuff, and how to get the most out of your results. Stay tuned. That one's worth reading. That one's not going to be the one I'm going to talk about today. The one I want to talk about today is the one that I wrote that is probably going to benefit most of us, which is why motivation won't get you there and the real secret to extraordinary success. All right, here comes a theme song. There is no theme song today, don't worry about that. Here we go. Week number 8, 9, or 10. I will make sure I clarify that up. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Extraordinary Podcast. Here we go. Oh man, if I haven't heard it once, I've heard it a million times. I wish I had more motivation, or I try, but I just can't find the willpower to keep going. Insert whatever word you call willpower, desired destination, blah, blah, and all that stuff here. For anyone striving to reach their peak, whether in fitness, career, or a personal life, the myth of motivation is often the story that is holding us back. We are led to believe that success is reserved for those with endless energy to push harder and keep going. But here's the truth. Extraordinary results do not come from having constant motivation. Can confirm, and if you listen to last week's podcast, that was all about that and how we didn't have one of these for 6 weeks because of a very minor bump in the road. Tiny. When people talk about motivation, they usually picture that initial spark of excitement, that burst of energy that comes with starting something new. Motivation might get you through a week or two of gym sessions, early mornings, or powering through those tough work days. But motivation fades quickly, and that's all you're counting on. Your goal will, if that's all you're counting on, your goal will soon seem like an uphill battle. I've seen this in my own life. I kind of use this as an example. I don't know if this is a good example, but it makes sense to me where motivation is at its highest and where it lacks later on and discipline steps in. I've seen this with my own life. When I first met my wife, we'd been together a matter of weeks, and suddenly I was someone who would go to bed late and still get up early just to spend more time with her. I'd do anything, miss sleep, rearrange my schedule, whatever it took. But here we are over 12 years later, and that wild excitement, let's say she can't even convince me to stay up for a movie after dark. If you speak to my wife, she will tell you that there is 0% chance we're starting a movie after 6 o'clock, at the point that it will probably end after 8 o'clock. Whereas when we first met, like most of us, and we know how this works, we will do whatever it takes to spend another 5, 10, 15 minutes with that person. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my wife the same now as I loved her back then, but the motivation to see her as often or later into the nights is definitely not as high. Are the rewards the same? Probably not, but that's not the point. That's not what we're talking about here. This shift isn't because my love for her changed, but the initial surges of motivation did what motivation always does. It faded. What lasts isn't motivation, but something deeper. And that's what keeps me here with her, still aiming to please her, but in a different way. The same goes for people who achieve truly exceptional anythings. They don't rely on motivation to keep them moving forward. They connect to a purpose that sustains them. They're not more motivated than others, they're more aligned. When you're aligned, your actions stem from a vision that makes the daily grind feel less like hard work and more like a path towards something meaningful. People like Kobe Bryant didn't drag themselves to the court out of motivation alone. He didn't rely on fleeting bursts of energy. Kobe's vision of becoming the best basketball player of all time was so strong, it pulled him forward every day, regardless of how he felt. The same goes for anyone reaching big dreams. When you're truly connected to your goals, what once seemed like hard work becomes a natural part of who you are. The people who reach their potential aren't waiting for that hit of motivation. Instead, they're driven by their why, the deep personal reason behind what they're doing. When you know your why, each action becomes less of a struggle and more of a privilege. Whether it's a desire for health, strength, family, or personal growth, when your goal resonates with you personally, action becomes a natural step forward. The best way to support this process is with systems and routines. Motivation may come and go, but when you build a structure that supports your vision, you're not just waiting for that energy boost to get moving, you're already moving. Each step forward is part of a larger picture you've created, and every small win reminds you of how far you've come. So don't be misled by the myth of motivation. Extraordinary results come not from constant energy, but from a meaningful purpose. When you're connected to your goals, each action becomes not only manageable, but deeply fulfilling. And that's how the truly extraordinary achieve greatness, not through myth, but through meaning. And as always, I close this out with, so get up, get after it, and become extraordinary. To me, and the message that I want people to understand from this blog post is everybody has a dream, and I said this last week, but it being an emotional shift rather than a driven, soul purposeful shift is what causes us to constantly fall off the bandwagon. I see this so much. People getting motivated when something bad happens. They feel fat. They can't get off the floor. They have a health scare. Now, that would be like me only wanting to do business stuff when my business is suffering, and when it's doing good, I don't want to do that stuff. And that's how we have a consistent ebb and flow of performance and lack of performance in businesses. A lot of people do it, seasonal changes, if you will. But if we always do the same things day in, day out, all the time, we do what's right, we're going to see a very consistent, more leveled out, or even a small linear growth rather than a big exponential rise and fall throughout achieving anything. And that's really what motivation, or the reliance on motivation, is going to cause. It's going to cause big exponential growth, big troughs, big rises, big troughs. And that's not what we want to do when we're achieving the extraordinary. That's what ordinary people want to do. They just ride the waves of suffering and happiness, and suffering and pleasure, and suffering and happiness, and suffering and pleasure. We want to be able to be happy from all day in, day out, because we enjoy the process, we enjoy the steps, we enjoy that stuff. We don't do the things because we're motivated. We do the things because it's who we are and it's who we identify as. So I think the most important thing to remember is the closing out statement of this particular blog is that to not be misled by the myth of motivation, that extraordinary results come not from constant energy, but from a meaningful purpose. When you are connected to your goals, each action becomes not only manageable, but deeply fulfilling. And that's how truly extraordinary achievements, butchered it. That's how the truly extraordinary achieve greatness, not through myth, but through meaning. I'm going to leave it there. It's going to be a short one today. Feel free to visit our website to read this blog post. This is all about that. Stick with your purpose and your why. There is no such thing as motivation, just discipline and just doing extraordinary things. Get up, get out there. See you next week. Become extraordinary.